In this video I wanted to talk about epoxy glues and in particular their use with woodworking. I use and have used Solid Solutions epoxy glue for some time now, and we've got Peter Byrne along with us again to talk about the glues that they produce. Now we've got 4 epoxy glues here, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all slightly different, and on the very end there we've got a putty. Yep. Now let's start off with this. Now this, as I said, is an epoxy glue as opposed to a polyurethane glue or a PVA glue or whatever else. Now as far as woodworking goes, a very good glue for woodworking. It's got a lot of good qualities.
You're right.
What are they?
Epoxies are truly fully waterproof. That's
as opposed to water resistant.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll withstand full immersion, long term.
Yep.
So that's why they're used in boat constructions, and certainly if you've got any outdoor furniture work you're doing, etc., you want to use something like this.
Now, Peter, the epoxy glues are very strong glues, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, makes the strongest in the world. Yeah.
This one here, so it's not only waterproof, but it's very strong, amongst the strongest glues in the world, as you said.
Yeah, used actually for concrete masonry, apart from timber, where you've got far greater break-off strengths in your concrete and bricks than the wood, so it's at home with wood, no trouble.
Now, I'm sticking with this one for a moment, and we'll get to these ones in a sec. Now, I've used this quite a bit. It takes a good 24 hours to dry hard, isn't it?
That's right. It takes a while to get all those molecular bonds to occur. Yep.
Now, that's... For some people that's not good, but for others that's very good. Now, particularly I've thought about doing complex glue ups in joinery. If you've got a piece of furniture and you've got to bring a lot of joins together all at once,
yes, a lot of clamps, and
you've got a lot of open time with this, and therefore a lot of time to get that clamping done.
Oh, absolutely. You've got best part of an hour open time to get everything in place. That's one good feature, not a problem.
And that's good. And the other thing that I like about this glue is it's got great gap filling qualities. Now there's a lot of woodworking glues that haven't got that gap filling quality, but this one does. So a sloppy join can be filled with this.
Well, yes, this one will cure down to 5 degrees C, unlike a lot of epoxies that need higher temperatures, 25. This will cure at around 5 degrees C, and it'll actually bond to a damp surface. So if you've got green timbers, you can bond them and then put them on the lathe and turn those green timbers.
Right. So this is the strongest of the epoxy glues.
Yes, it is.
It also has got the longest drying time.
Yep.
And then as we move down, we've got another epoxy glue that's not as strong as this, and it also hasn't got the same drying time.
No, we're talking about a 4-hour bond, and that's quite adequate for many joinery jobs. It's still stronger than the timber structure itself. Generally, it'll tear the timber apart when you pull that.
And that's a good test, isn't it?
It's a 4-hour cure. Yeah.
Good. So we've got 24-hour cure, 4-hour cure, and then we go to the 5-minute.
Yeah, the handy little 5-minute one. But this is a real trade-off in strength. It'll bond your timber and so on, but nothing like these will.
But there are jobs.
It
has its place, and I definitely do get a lot of use out of that one there. Particularly as a filler, you can use it as a gap filler, just as simply as a filling rather than as a bonder. Yeah. And so I like that. Lastly, as far as the epoxy glues go, we've got a great one here, which I'm very interested in, and
yeah, it's one of those ones that really pulls you out of trouble where you've got a very demanding situation with flex in your timber. Now, one comes to mind is traditional boat building, doing masts and spars where you've got real bending factors with the wood. This will handle all the bend and whip.
Because epoxy otherwise is quite
brittle. Quite a rigid material, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember years ago, parallel bars in gymnasiums being built with this, and you've seen how they can flex, a couple of 100 millimetres, and it's ideal for that. Just a handy one to have in the range.
And we're just going to get off of glues for a moment and just make mention of the last one.
Yes, well, last one here is our epoxy putty. And unlike a polyester putty, which is well known but prone to shrinkage, we've all seen polyester, how it can pop away from a window joint that's been rotted out and filled. Well, the epoxy putty here has no shrinkage to talk of, and far greater bonding power to the timber. So you do it with this, you do it once, and that's it. There's no coming back in 3 years, 5 years to redo it.
And I think that's one of the features of epoxy generally, is its ability to bond to things.
Well, it's the foundation of a lot of engineering grade adhesives in concrete and building construction, which is far more demanding than timber. So it's cruising with wood.
Now, lastly, we can't forget to mention the CA glues or the super glues, the cyanoacrylate glues.
That's right.
That Solid Solution also stocks. Now, there is a thin super glue or a thick super glue. Now, I know that there are super glues out there on the market. Two things that I really like about this. Number one, these aren't nearly as expensive as some of the ones on the market.
No, we've tried to bring these at a price point where they're a very affordable material, but also with the commercial grade quality. Super glues can vary from being almost like cordials, rather watered down, through to a premium cordial, and it's the same with the super glues, but this is a premium grade.
Now, there's been a bit of information going around the traps about super glues failing. Now, I'm pretty sure that that's all related to the quality. Now, there are different CA glues, and some good quality, some bad quality. So make sure you're aware of that when you're going out to purchase.
It's not just price, no.
Now, the second thing I want to mention is that this bottle of super glue is the only one that I've ever exhausted completely before it's actually gone hard. Now, I put that down to one little feature in this cap that is a saviour, and that is inside there is a little pin, and that pin will locate into the nozzle of the bottle, which locates inside the nozzle and always keeps that nozzle clear. And when it's always clear, you can always put the lid on, you can always keep the air away from it, and therefore it's going to last you the whole life of that bottle rather than
that's
a
real saving. So
right.
how many super glues can you get to the bottom of the bottle with?
Exactly.
Very few.
Exactly.
The tops clag up. So
exactly.
Yeah. Another tip is storage. The fridge is a good place to keep the super glues, that the shelf life will extend considerably.
Yes, and what they do say is put this in a plastic bag and then in the fridge.
Yes.
Unfortunately, too many workshops have got fridges in them that haven't got beer in them, I suppose.
That's true.
Anyway, it's a good idea to store it in a fridge. You're absolutely right.
All these glues, just one little quick point. Try not to store your epoxies down on the concrete floor. I know you've got to store them in the workshop, but be aware that over the winter, they can freeze up a bit like honeys can, and they can get tight and sugary. But they're still good, just like your honey will come good with being warmed up. The same applies to these resins. And then use them back at room temperature and you'll get your full working time.